I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who finds out his wife is cheating on him. Honestly, I thought I knew everything about Lisa. We've been married for 6 years, and yeah, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always believed we'd get through anything together. She's a fiery woman, bossy, stubborn, with that bitchy streak that she's proud of. But she's also smart, charming, and for a long time I thought she genuinely loved me. That was until the last few weeks. Things started to feel off. She became distant, always busy, making excuses for why she couldn't hang out or why she was too tired for sex. At first, I blamed it on stress at her job. She's a marketing exec, always under pressure. But then I started noticing little things. Her phone was always locked, even around me. She'd hide her texts, and sometimes I'd catch her lying about where she was going. Small things, nothing huge. Yet, still, enough to make my gut tighten. The real clue came during my grandmother's funeral. It was a tough day for everyone. Her passing hit us all hard. I was trying to keep it together, but I couldn't shake that uneasy feeling. Lisa was acting weird, distant, like she wasn't really there with us. I noticed her texting on her phone more than usual and sneaking off to the bathroom several times. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe she was just upset, or maybe she was trying to get a moment alone. Then, after the funeral, I stumbled on something that knocked the wind out of me. I was cleaning up in the living room, and I found her phone on the coffee table. I wasn't snooping, I was just picking it up after she left the room. Something caught my eye, a message thread. It was between her and Mark, yeah, Mark, my best friend. The timing was suspicious. The texts weren't just friendly chatter, they were flirtatious, suggestive, talking about meeting up for real this time, as if they'd been planning it all along. I saw her say, "I need you tonight, just one night to feel loved," and Mark's reply, "You don't have to ask, babe, I've been waiting for this." My stomach dropped. I could feel the blood drain from my face. I stared at that screen, reading words I wish I could forget. I knew Lisa was bitchy, she'd lie about almost anything, but this was next level. She was sneaking off with my best friend during the most vulnerable day of my grandmother's life. How long had this been going on? Were they doing this behind my back for months? I couldn't breathe. I clenched my fists, feeling like my world was shattering piece by piece. I wanted to confront her right then, but I didn't. Instead, I hid the phone and waited. I needed to think, to figure out what this all meant. My mind was racing, pain and anger swirling together. I thought about all the moments I'd been there for her, supporting her through her career struggles, trying to make her happy, only to find out she was cheating on me with my own best friend. It's like I didn't know who she really was anymore. And Mark, God, I never saw that coming. I thought he was my buddy, someone I could trust. Turns out, he was just as much a snake as Lisa. That night I didn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I'd seen. My hands shook. It felt like I was suffocating. Part of me wanted to storm over there, confront her, demand answers, but another part, more rational, knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just blow up everything without knowing the full story. But deep down, I knew enough. I knew enough to know this was the end of the line for us. I never thought I'd be that guy, but here I was, realizing I'd been played for a fool, and I had no idea how to move forward. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding head and that heavy, sinking feeling in my chest. I had my phone in hand, still trembling from the shock of what I'd discovered, and I kept going over that conversation with Lisa and Mark. Every word, every emoji, every suggestive line, they all felt like daggers stabbing me repeatedly. I couldn't imagine how I had been so blind, so stupid. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it impulsively. I decided I'd wait until she got home from work. I needed to be calm, controlled. If I was going to get answers, I had to be strategic. But the waiting was horrible. Every minute dragged on like an eternity. I kept thinking about all the signs I missed, all the times I brushed off her strange behaviors. I felt betrayed, angry, humiliated, and more than anything, lost. When Lisa finally walked through the door that evening, she looked annoyed, more so than usual. She always had that bitchy smirk, but tonight it seemed to carry an extra edge. I could see her eyeing me nervously, like she knew I had found out something. I decided to test her patience a little. "Hey," I said, voice steady but cold. "Can we talk?" She rolled her eyes, flipping her hair. "What is it now? I've had a long day." "No, Lisa, I mean really talk. Sit down." I pointed to the couch trying to keep my voice even, but inside I was boiling. I pulled out my phone, showing her the message thread with Mark. Her eyes widened and she immediately started to lie. "Oh, come on, that's not what it looks like. You're overreacting. Mark and I were just friends. It's nothing. You're twisting things." I didn't buy that for a second. "Nothing? Really? Then explain why you're texting him things. Like I need you tonight and just one night to feel loved. What's going on, Lisa?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Maybe I was upset. Everyone gets a little emotional sometimes. That doesn't mean I want to cheat on you. You're reading too much into it. Mark's just a friend. You're just paranoid like always." I stared at her, feeling a sick mix of rage and heartbreak. How could she lie so easily? How could she pretend she wasn't caught? I wanted to scream, to shake her, but I stayed calm, too calm maybe. I knew I needed to get her to admit it outright. "Lisa," I said, voice deeper now, "don't insult my intelligence. I saw the messages. I know what's been going on. You've been sneaking around, lying to me, cheating, during my grandmother's funeral, no less. How long has this been going on? Are you even the woman I married?" She looked at me, eyes cold and unapologetic. "Whatever. You're overreacting. It's not like that. Mark and we've just been talking sometimes. I don't know what you want me to say. I've been stressed, okay? I needed comfort, and I didn't think it was a big deal. You're so possessive, always accusing me of stuff. I don't need you micromanaging my life." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. That's when I saw how truly bitchy she was, cold, manipulative, and capable of lying with a straight face. I felt my hands tighten into fists. I wanted to break something, to scream at her, but instead I just stared at her, trying to process everything. I realized then that her version of comfort wasn't what I thought. She wasn't just talking to Mark, she was screwing him. During a funeral, no less. All I ever wanted was a wife I could trust, someone who'd stand by me through thick and thin, who'd love me for who I am. And now I was faced with the reality that she'd been lying, betraying me with my best friend, and doing it all behind my back. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies and deceit. I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal itself, or the fact that she could sit there and lie so effortlessly, like I was just some minor inconvenience in her life. I was starting to see her for who she really was, and it wasn't pretty. After that confrontation, I was a mess inside. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and even the smallest things set me off. I kept replaying everything I'd seen and heard, trying to make sense of how I'd been so blind. My mind kept circling back to the fact that Lisa had lied straight to my face, and somehow that hurt even more than the cheating itself. The betrayal of my trust, the fact that she'd been sneaking around with Mark during one of the worst days of my life, it all felt like a punch in the stomach. But I knew I couldn't just sit there and stew in this. I had to come up with a plan. I decided I needed to get some proof, something concrete that I could use if I decided to confront her again, or if I wanted to show someone else what kind of person she really was. I started digging through her phone, looking for more proof. I found even more messages, texts, pictures, things she'd sent Mark that were way beyond just flirting. She'd been sleeping with him, I was sure of it. I also found evidence that she'd been meeting him at her house when I was at work or out. She lied about being tired, busy, or at mom's. It was sickening. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to stalk or snoop, but at that moment I didn't see any other choice. I felt like I had to catch her in the act or at least get undeniable proof. I started leaving my phone nearby when I knew she'd go to the bathroom, hoping she'd slip up. I even put a little voice recorder in my pocket when I was around her, just in case I could catch her in a lie. The more I listened, the more I realized how deeply she'd been lying, from the little things about her schedule to the big, outright betrayal. One night I finally caught her in the act. I'd set up a hidden camera in the living room, just in case she tried to meet Mark again. Sure enough, I saw her slip out of the house after I went to bed, heading straight to his place. Watching her walk out that door, I felt my stomach turn. It was like my worst nightmare come true. It was real and I couldn't deny it anymore. That was the moment I knew I had to do something. Not just confront her again, but figure out how I was going to handle this mess for good. I stayed up all night, debating whether to just pack my bags and leave or to fight for some kind of resolution. But honestly, I knew deep down that things wouldn't be the same. The trust was shattered beyond repair. Every time I looked at her, I'd see that sneaky, lying bitch who had been sleeping with my best friend behind my back. The next morning, I decided I wouldn't just confront her again. I'd gather everything I had, photos, videos, messages, and then I'd lay it all out for her. I wanted her to see what she'd done, not just to me, but to our marriage, to the friendship she'd betrayed. I was furious, but more than that, I felt a deep, aching sadness. That's what hurts the most, the loss of what I thought we had. I loved her, or I thought I did, but now I had to face the reality that she wasn't who I believed she was. She was just a manipulative, selfish woman who lied to my face one too many times. And whatever happened next, I knew things would never go back to how they used to be. By the time I had all my evidence gathered, I felt numb. I had hours of footage showing her sneaking out, countless messages revealing her lies, and enough printed screens to make her realize I wasn't bluffing. I was calm on the outside, because I knew if I let myself feel everything at once, I'd break. But inside, I was raging with betrayal and heartbreak. I kept asking myself how she could do this, how she could betray me, my trust, during one of the most vulnerable days of my life. The funeral of all times, and with Mark, my best friend. I waited until she got home that evening, knowing I had everything I needed. When she stepped inside, I was sitting on the couch, calmly holding my phone and a thick folder of screenshots. She looked surprised, then annoyed, then defensive. "What's all this?" she snapped, trying to brush past me. I didn't move. I looked her straight in the eyes and pushed the folder toward her. "This, all of it, the texts, the videos, the proof that you've been lying, sneaking around, sleeping with Mark during my grandmother's funeral. How long has this been going on?" Her face turned pale for a second, then she scoffed. "You're overreacting. I told you Mark and I are just friends. You're blowing things out of proportion. You always do this, accuse me of stuff that's not even real. Maybe I needed someone to talk to. You don't understand how stressed I've been." I shook my head. "Don't even try that. You're lying, Lisa. You've been lying for weeks. During my grandmother's funeral, no less, you sneaked off to his house. You lied about being tired, busy, stressed. I found proof of everything." She crossed her arms and scowled. "You're just jealous. That's why you're acting like this. Mark and I were not what you think. I was upset. Yeah, I needed comfort. How many times do I have to tell you? I didn't mean for it to go so far." I felt my blood boil. "Comfort? You call that comfort, sleeping with my best friend behind my back during the funeral of someone I loved? You're sick, Lisa, and honestly, I don't even know who you are anymore." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You don't get to judge me. I'm sick of your paranoia. You're always accusing me of stuff. Maybe you're the one who's cheating, huh? Maybe you're the one who's been lying." That hit me like a punch. For a brief second, I wondered if she was trying to turn the tables, make me doubt myself. But I knew better. I had all the proof I needed. I looked at her, feeling completely hollow inside. All the love, all the trust I'd given her, it was gone, evaporated in a cloud of lies and betrayal. I stood up slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "I can't do this anymore. I loved you, Lisa. I thought we had something real, but I see now that I was just fooling myself. I want you out of my house. I want you gone. I don't want to see your face again until you can be honest with me. Until then, don't come back." She looked stunned for a second, then sneered. "Fine, do what you want, but don't think I'm leaving quietly. I'll take everything. I'll make sure I get what I want from this. You'll regret throwing me out." I didn't reply. I just watched her walk out the door, feeling like I'd been hit by a train. The cold silence that followed was deafening. I sat back down, trembling, and stared at all the evidence I had laid out. Part of me was furious, my wife, my best friend, all of it. But another part, the smaller voice inside, was telling me that I deserved better. That I'd been a fool for trusting her this long. That night, I was alone in a house that suddenly felt emptier than ever. I kept thinking about everything, the betrayal, the lies, the fact that she had used my love against me. But I also knew I had made the right decision. I couldn't stay married to someone who lied so effortlessly, who played me for a fool. I had to start rebuilding somehow from this wreckage. And maybe, someday, I'd find someone who wouldn't tear my heart apart like she did. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever experienced. Every time I turned around, I saw her face everywhere, the memories, the moments we shared, the plans we made. It was like someone had ripped out my heart and left me bleeding. I kept replaying everything: the betrayal, her lies, the way she looked when she lied to my face. It was a slow, brutal process of trying to put the pieces together and accept that I'd been so blind. I also had to figure out what to do about the house, about my job, about everything. Lisa was trying to turn things around, calling, texting, saying she was sorry and confused, trying to manipulate her way back in. But I knew better. Her apologies felt hollow, and her tears, if she even cried, were just a performance. She wanted to fix things, but she didn't understand the depth of what she'd done. I wasn't that naive anymore. Meanwhile, Mark also tried to reach out, acting like he was just a victim of circumstances. That he didn't mean for it to happen, that he was just caught in the moment, like I should feel sorry for him. Fuck that. I knew the kind of guy Mark was, something I never really saw before. We'd had beers, tennis games, barbecues. I trusted him. And now I found out he'd been sleeping with my wife for God knows how long. The betrayal cut so deep I honestly didn't know how I was going to come out of this. I decided I needed distance. I packed a bag, stayed with a friend for a while. I needed time to breathe, to think, to heal. Every night I'd lie awake and wonder how someone I loved, someone I trusted, could turn into such a cold, manipulative bitch. I kept thinking about how she lied, how she played me like a fool, telling me she just needed comfort, that she was stressed, that she had no idea what she was doing. Yeah, right, I saw her texts. She knew exactly what she was doing. One thing I realized during this period: I had to cut all ties with her. No calls, no texts, no explanations. I couldn't keep her around, not after what she'd done. I even started telling mutual friends bits and pieces, just enough for them to see her true colors. Some were sympathetic, others just shook their heads in disbelief. I didn't care anymore about saving face. I just wanted to get through this and figure out what my next step was. As for feelings, well, I was a mess. Part of me was furious, filled with rage at her betrayal. Part of me was heartbroken, feeling like I'd lost everything I'd believed in. And another part, a small, stubborn voice inside, was telling me I deserved better, that I'd be okay eventually. But right now I just felt broken, like I'd been used, lied to, and discarded like trash. The woman I'd loved, the man I'd been, all gone in a flash. All because she couldn't keep her legs closed and Mark couldn't keep his dick in his pants. I kept thinking about what I'd do next. Honestly, I had no clear plan, just taking it one day at a time. The house was too painful to stay in, so I kept staying away. I didn't want to see her face or hear her voice. I was trying to protect myself from breaking completely. But I know I'll have to face it all eventually. That's just how life works, isn't it? You get knocked down and you get back up. Or so they say. Right now, I just want to forget her. Forget Mark and move on. But I know that's easier said than done. In the end, I realized that what hurt the most wasn't just the betrayal itself, but how much I had trusted her, how much I had believed in us. Looking back, I see now that her bitchy, manipulative nature was always hiding behind that pretty face. She lied, cheated, and played her games, thinking she could get away with it all. And Mark, he was just as guilty, a snake hidden behind the friend I thought I knew. I've spent months since that day trying to rebuild my life. I've gone through the worst pain I've ever felt, but I've also learned some important lessons. The biggest one is that you can't control other people's actions, only your reactions. That trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. But you can choose to move on, to forgive yourself for trusting the wrong people, and to realize that you deserve better than someone who treats you like an option or a fool. Now I'm focusing on myself. I've started therapy, trying to understand how I let things get so out of control, and how to avoid falling into the same trap again. I've also cut ties with Lisa completely. No calls, no texts, no more lies. I don't want her in my life anymore. The betrayal was a wake-up call, one I needed to see clearly. I've learned to value myself more, to set boundaries, and to recognize red flags before they blow up in my face. Looking back, I know I will survive. I'll be okay even if it hurts for a while. Sometimes, life throws these brutal lessons at us so we can grow stronger. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar knows they're not alone. It's painful and it's ugly, but you can come out the other side. Better, wiser, and more cautious about who you let into your life. So for anyone who's been betrayed by a partner, a friend, or anyone close, I want you to remember that you're worth more than the lies they tell. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. Don't settle for less. And if you're hurting right now, take it one day at a time, because someday this pain will fade, and you'll come out stronger than ever.